What's up, people? This is your boy Trey here with the TRXCast, man. This is the new podcast for TRXTM. Today, man, we're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about the teams that we think our team should draft. Man, y'all stay tuned. We're going to introduce the cast themselves. To my right, we got
Lucas, what's up, guys?
Also, to my right, we got
Mark.
And then to my left, we got the man
Mitch himself.
Yep, so today, man, we're going to come at y'all with a good show, man. Y'all stay tuned. We're going to hit y'all with some good information. Man, we're going to talk about the draft. That's going to be the first topic we get on. So, just kind of want to ask everybody, does everybody seem like they kind of got the same consensus number one pick as most mock drafts got on?
Bryce Young.
The Alabama Drew Brees.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to go with anybody else. He scored a 98% on the Cognition test. I mean, he's in an NFL-ready offense.
Do you think all the size, man, tangibles, like, do that really play a factor into, like, what a quarterback brings to the table? Because I feel like they use a lot of height stuff, but, like, we've had some quarterbacks that meet those same requirements that turn out to be, like, great. So, like, what is it that you really feel like a GM or a scout or the owners, like, what is it that the scouts are looking for in a quarterback? Because you got, like they say, the tangibles of Anthony Richardson. He's 6'4", 213, ran a 4.3 40, but he's not a better quarterback than Bryce Young.
No.
But they got him as a top 5 quarterback. So how are you comparing the levels? Like, what are we looking for when it comes to tangibles? Like, is it because of stature? Like, are they really playing can that quarterback see over their line type card? Like, what are we looking for? What would you look for if you were drafting out of these quarterbacks?
I think with Bryce, there are so many things that he can do. It outweighs what he can't do. And he's proven time and time again. I mean, you've seen him 2-minute drill, last second drives. He wins games. This Alabama team last year was the worst Alabama team in probably 2 decades. But he would will them to win games. And I just think Bryce has all the tools, apart from height, that everyone looks for. And like I said, it gets to that point to where the things that he can do really well outweigh what he can't do just because of his height or his weight. Because he's 5'10 and a half, 190. He's not going to get bigger than that. And if he does get bigger than that, it's going to slow him down. He's not built to put on size. But I think what he has right now makes him the consensus number one pick.
And I don't think the height weight issue is as big as an issue as it used to be, because you can see, Tua is not the biggest guy. Drew Brees wasn't the biggest guy. It is all a part of how they fit into the scheme of the offensive coordinator's mindset. And if you prefer to have a big player, put him back there. If you prefer to have, somebody that can actually play the way that they have always played at a high level, then that's who you should go with.
And you make a good point. There are certain offenses where a short guy is not going to work out. But what I've heard and what I agree with is that you form your offense to your main guy. So when you bring in Bryce Young, your intentions are, okay, we know he's a smaller guy. We know this is how the offense is going to work around him. We're going to work with him and make sure that this is something that benefits our quarterback, not something that hinders him. Because what's the point? If your offense is meant for a bigger guy, you're not going to draft Bryce Young. You're just not.
But what does that mean by meant for a bigger quarterback? Because let me ask this. So because if we're all in the same boat, the top 5 is what? Bryce, CJ, Levis, Richardson, and then maybe Hooker at 5.
People are flirting with Tanner McKee, but I think Hooker's at 5.
So why would we put Hooker at 5? What did Richardson and Levis do besides maybe not get hurt? But they all got hurt, didn't they? Didn't they all miss a couple games?
Levis had turf toe I think he played through it for a majority of his senior season.
But
final season.
You look at any of the stats, like because now we've talked a couple times off camera, age. Like we're saying that age plays a factor into this. But why is that? Like, what are they looking? That's why I get back to the question. What are we looking for as a scout? Because if we took all the stats, you can look them at ESPN, PFF, whatever it is you want to look at it for a stat. Stetson Bennett performed better than Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, but he's projected 6th, 7th round. maybe undrafted.
Even, yeah.
2 back-to-back national championships, but undrafted.
Well, you got to consider his personality and what he does off the field. He's a bit of a risk factor there.
So then, what are we looking for? You know what I mean? Because that's what I'm saying. Like, what it entails to being a NFL-ready quarterback. Because if you can't do it because you're too short, if you're only looking at what you can run in a 40, but you're saying he's a product, like, so then that means he's not ready now. So why would you waste a first-round pick on him if that's something you're building to? So then that means he doesn't need to be a first-round pick. But if you're saying that this dude, because he had an off-the-field issue, oh, now he's just going to go undrafted. Okay, he's hurt, but now he's a third-round pick. So that, what are we looking for? What makes that intangible for a first-round pick?
I think you also have to consider that Georgia had the best all-around offense for the past 2 years. It's hard not to succeed if you're halfway decent quarterback on an offensive powerhouse like the Georgia Bulldogs. Then, so I'm not saying that Stetson's a bad
players
quarterback.
Projected to be drafted in the first round this year. Georgia alone, 6 players in the first round.
Okay, but then you have to think, if he's still having off the field issues with like legitimate dogs in the locker room, how is he going to be able to take the information that a veteran in an NFL locker room is going to give him and be like, man, you got to straighten things out, because playing this game is, you're going to get replaced. Yeah. If you keep all of your personal things aside and you straighten your act out, that's what's going to get you to the highest level.
And I think Stetson is one of the, I don't like him, but I think Stetson is one of the top 15 college quarterbacks ever, just resume based, stats based. But the thing with him is, one, like we were talking about, he played on that Georgia team. That, if we're being honest, if their backup would have played, they would still at least been in the college football playoff. But he's small. He does miss throws. He's played with a top-ranked offensive line every year that he has played. And Bryce, like I said, the difference between them, they're both around 5'11", 6 foot. Bryce is 5'10" and a half, but Stetson's like 5'11", 6 foot.
Do you think it's because of the paths? Because you got to think 5-star recruit, walk on.
I don't so much think it's that, because we saw Baker get picked first about 5-6 years ago.
But he also won a Heisman Trophy. Bryce Young won a Heisman Trophy.
I just think...
I think Stetson was snubbed this year, but I ain't going to get into that today.
Caleb Williams was the best.
Nah, man. They got an image thing going on with the Heisman, for real. It's an image, honestly, but that's a different topic conversation. That people, I ain't going to get into that. But, yeah, back to that. With, like we said, Bryce Young being number 1 to the Panthers. Do y'all think Houston takes C.J. Stroud at 2, or do y'all think they trade that pick?
I don't think they do. I think they keep the pick, and I think they take Will Anderson. And it looks like Stroud's falling. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the Brady Quinn issue of him not showing up to the Manning Passing Academy. I know his SO2 cognition scores were like 18%, or 18 out of 99, and it just looks like he's falling. But Houston also has pick 12. So if Stroud falls out of the top 10, it almost seems like, and if I'm the Texans GM right now, I'm thinking Stroud is falling. We can get our player at 12 or at 2 and have a possibility to get a player we want at 12 too. And they have the assets and draft capital moving forward to move up from 12 to 9 or 10 or somewhere around there if they really do want someone that's still available. But I think they take Will Anderson.
I don't think Stroud falls past 5.
Really?
Before, I thought he was set at number 2. I thought he was number 1, but everything that's coming out, and given it could be a pre-draft smokescreen that teams are putting out trying to get him to fall, but some people are projecting him out of the top 15, which is ridiculous, but I don't know.
I think if he's there at 3, the team's going to trade up. They're not going to waste an opportunity for who was at one point, like you mentioned, a projected number 1 pick. If he falls to 3 and there's an opportunity to trade up for him, some team's going to take that risk.
Yeah, I would think so. I would really like to think so, because I think Stroud is the consensus second best quarterback in this draft. But I don't, with everything that's going on right now, it just looks like his stock is falling, and I don't know why. I don't know how much it's going to affect him come draft day. But like you said, there are a lot of teams that would just be willing to move up and take that opportunity, I think.
So, with what is it? Is it the SO2, the S2, the
Cognitive test?
Yeah. So, is that as much as a factor to, I guess, how a player plays in a regular season game and a postseason game?
So it used to be the Wonderlic test, but they got rid of that. And basically all this shows, and given, I don't know, like you said, I don't know how much teams weigh it, but it's showing how quick your mind processes this, how quickly you can read this, how quickly you can adjust to this. So more than anything, it's just this is here, how quick can this person process that? And given I don't know how much weight they're going to put on it, I know the Panthers GM said that that's not all they look at, but they do put some weight into it, and especially with Bryce scoring the highest in, I don't know how long it's been, but in 98 out of a 99, higher than Burrow, Allen, and other top quarterbacks. I don't know how much weight they're going to put into it, but I know that is definitely going to be a factor, especially when Bryce is up here at a 98, and Stroud looks like he didn't even show up for the test and get an 18. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe he doesn't want to go to the Texans. Maybe he doesn't want to go to whatever team is going to take him at 5. Maybe he wants to plug and play into a Tennessee or somewhere like that. I don't know, but I just can't explain why he's falling so fast.
So quickly, yeah. I think that's the biggest surprise. It hasn't been something gradual over the past, a couple months. Things have been coming out. I mean, it's been in this past week, maybe 2.
It's been within the 2 weeks leading up to the draft.
Right. That suddenly, C.J. Stroud's not the prospect we thought he was, and I think there's something more. I think there's something off the cameras, off social media that we don't really know about, and I don't think we'll learn about that until draft day, and maybe not even until after we see him go off the board. So I think it's something to keep an eye on, because I'm definitely curious. I don't think a quarterback on Ohio State that played as well as he did could score as low as he did on the test. I think it's either a fluke, either he woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or I don't know, maybe he's getting cold feet or what the problem is, but that just seems really out of character for him. So I wouldn't put too much weight on it for Stroud specifically. I mean, I'm definitely going to put a decent amount of weight on it for Bryce Young, for Will Levis, who did score high, because I think it does prove their ability to play the game a little bit. I mean, part of the NFL is it's quicker than college. Like, you have to think faster. The game moves a lot faster in the NFL. So I think for them it definitely plays a big role. But for somebody like that, a top prospect to score that low, I just think something's off.
I mean, we were talking about the most NFL-ready college team, in our opinion, was Georgia. Ohio State played Georgia in the college football playoff semifinal, and if it weren't for a shank kick, they would have been in the national championship. Most people consider that the national championship. Stroud was dealing the entire game. And for him to be making those decisions, those throws against the most NFL-ready team, but then score 18 out of 99, I don't know. Like you said, it just doesn't make sense. Even if maybe he doesn't have that mental aptitude and the game just comes naturally to him, you think someone of that caliber would at least get 40, 50, somewhere in there. But 18 is just unheard of. And
I seen somebody comment and said that Anthony Richardson was brilliant, but got like a 70-something. Yeah. So, like, does that hurt his draft stock? Like, that's when I'm getting to the point of, like, what are they looking for in a quarterback? Like, I'm not understanding and it's always every year if we look at quarterbacks, we're looking at something similar each year, and it doesn't make sense every year. Like, the year we'll just use that year, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, who else came out that year? Baker. Allen. So, how is it that Josh Rosen went 3rd overall, right?
No, I think he fell to 10th, but for a while he was
projected 3rd.
Yeah.
Right. How many seasons did he play? 2? If that. Come on, bro. Like, he's the most ready quarterback. Mel Kiper said it. Todd McShay said it. All of them said it. Like, most ready quarterback, and you don't even last 2 seasons. So, in my opinion, I don't know what they're getting paid to do. Like what?
I don't think they know what they're looking for.
I'm not understanding what they're paid to do because like, what are you looking at? If that's the most ready quarterback in your opinion, and you're saying this on national television, that's like me saying, hey, this dude here is raw, got talent. He plug him in at receiver right now. He's gonna be the next Jerry Rice, and you turn out to be Betty Rice. Like, come on, bro. Like, there's no reason why they should get paid to do what they do. Like, I don't understand what they're looking for in any recruit, because a lot of times they'll sit here and say, yeah, we look at this one season. Because Anthony Richardson, where did he play before this? He was a transfer. So where are you getting these intangibles that he's now maybe the number 2 best quarterback? He played one season in Florida. Hendon Hooker played one season at Tennessee. You know, I'm just trying to see what even Will Levis. What, this was his first season, or was this his second season? Second season, I think.
Second season at Kentucky. I think he was at Penn State before.
So I'm confused as to what actually is the process of breaking down a recruit. Like, I want to go inside a scout's persona or a locker room and be like, hey, what is it that takes you into looking at this person's stock? Like, what determines a person's stock?
And I think it also plays into effect of, you know, the impact that player left on college football. You know, their draft stock is going to be obviously higher. Whenever you get to the mid-level of the draft stock, does that test not mean as much anymore? Does raw athleticism take over their test scores if they're not necessarily, you know, projected to be a top 5 pick?
Man, so to feed off of that, so you saying, like, you think it's just like an image thing? Like, so do you think an image applies into this? Like, is it who I feel like my team fits best for? Like, not team, but like my player. So, like, if you feel like Will Levis fits better for your team, like, is that what you looking at, his image? Like, the total image, like, okay, his background image, like, what he did at the school he transferred from, what he did at Kentucky. Like, are we looking at, like, what this person brings rather than the athlete he is? Because like I'm saying, man, like looking at the stats from college, their last years, all of them, bro, some of these top 2s, 3s, 4s shouldn't even be in the top 5. You know what I mean? So like, right. What is it that we actually really looking at in the sense of mid-range to high-range to low-range quarterbacks? Like, is it the teams that they're playing? Because 3 to 4 of them played each other. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? On a day-to-day basis. You know what I mean? So, are we looking at head-to-head battles? Are we looking at conference battles? Are we looking at how far the player gets in, like, the college football playoffs? Are we looking at national championships? Are we looking at longevity of the player at the collegiate career? Like, what is all intangible, or what is all in depth of what they're looking for? Or what is it that you're feeling that is the overall just main piece or the main source of what each quarterback has to bring, or each player that's a top round pick has to bring to the table? Because like we're just talking about quarterbacks because that just seems to be the main topic. But even if you're like a Will Anderson, even if you're like a Christian Gonzalez, a Tyree Wilson, what is it about them that makes them, you know, so superior? Is it what they bring? Is it the image that they bring? Why do they project Devin Witherspoon over Joey Porter in some aspects? Like, what is it that they're bringing to the table that overall just makes them more valuable than another?
I think it all comes down to, is the person a day one starter or a project? Will Anderson and the DBs that you named, they are all day one starters. Tyree Wilson too. And Bryce Young, I believe, is a day one starter. But no one drafting Anthony Richardson, and at least I would hope so, thinks he's a day one starter. He can't be. But I think he's a good fit. And Levis, too. I'm kind of conflicted on Levis. And Luke, I know you mentioned this off camera. He is someone that can be plugged in day one, and he'll make the big plays. but he'll screw up a lot too. He will be Jameis Winston. He'll give you those 30 touchdowns. He'll give you 30 picks with it too, hot and ready. But I think Levis and Richardson are good fits with someone like Seattle or Detroit, to where they don't have those elite quarterbacks, but they have those above average quarterbacks that they can sit behind for a year, 2 years, learn from them, and then be the guy. But I think Bryce Young and borderline Stroud, they're guys that you can plug in and say, hey, we're giving you the keys, do what you can, we'll build around you. But with Levis and Richardson, they're more of, we don't know what they're going to be, but we're going to gamble on what they're going to be because they have the strong arm. Richardson is ungodly fast. He's built like an outside linebacker who can throw 70 yards down the field.
The greatest QB combine of all time.
Yeah, he has everything on a physical level, but at this point it's what can he give you? What can he do? What can't he do? You know that he can jump out the gym. You know that he can throw a football 70 yards. He hit the roof with one of his throws. But can he do that consistently? Can he do that accurately? Will he grow? Is what he is right now, is that going to be his forever? And that's kind of the gamble that you're willing to take on these big names who have the physical gifts. But someone like a Tanner McKee, a Jake Hayner, or even a Stetson Bennett, you've kind of seen what they're going to be. And if you haven't seen that, it's, are you willing to gamble on them the way that you are these other guys who have all these physical intangibles that everyone's willing to bank on? And that's the big question that all of these GMs and coaches and front offices have to debate about is, what are we going to do? Are we willing to take that gamble? Are we willing to bet on someone who we aren't sure about as our future? And if they aren't, are we ready to draft again and start over again? And I just think that quarterback is such an important position. It's the most important position, in my opinion, because if you look at the San Francisco 49ers, probably the most well-rounded team in the entire NFL, they can't win a Super Bowl. They can't win a Super Bowl because they've never had that guy at quarterback. And Hendon Hooker, I like Hendon Hooker, but he would remind me a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo. You plug him in, he will do what he needs to do. And given I think Hendon is a better prospect and will ultimately be better than Jimmy, but you plug him in and he will do what he needs to do, but he's never going to be that guy to take you to the next level. So I think it's just evaluating the potential of these players and seeing how far they can carry you as opposed to what they are right now. And I think that's why Levis and Richardson are rated so high, I guess.
But with the guy that can take you to the next level is a mid-draft stock player that is still an amazing athlete. Is he able to be molded by the people that are around him into, like you said, the guy that can take a team to the next level? So I think going back and looking at that player's background, how, maybe interviewing previous teammates, this, that, and the other, are they going to give that the honest input, or are they going to be like, yeah, that's my boy, I was in the locker room with him for 4 years? Are they going to give the 100% brutal honesty that NFL GMs, head coaches, OCs, DCs need in order to, I guess, accurately judge how this player is going to affect the team? And if this player is going to affect the team immediately, or if it's going to have to be a project player,
I think you have to draft based on who you think is going to be the best player ultimately. If I were a GM, that's what I would do. Because what are you playing for? Are you playing to make the playoffs? If you're playing to make the playoffs, then you're doing it all wrong. If you're playing just to bring fans in the stadium, yeah, that's all great and dandy. You're making money for the organization. But what are you playing for? If you're not playing for a Super Bowl, then what else? And I think if you are playing for a Super Bowl, you don't draft the guy that is good now. You can plug him in, and he might take you to the playoffs. He might take your offense to the next level. But is he going to win you a Super Bowl? I think that's the question you have to ask if you're an NFL GM. And I don't think all of these guys can take you to a Super Bowl. I think Anthony Richardson, high risk, high reward. I think he can be we've talked about before, he can be your prime Cam Newton, maybe better type of guy. He can take you to a Super Bowl and potentially win you one. I also think he can play 2 years, turn out to be nothing, and fall out of the league. But here's the thing. Like I said, if I'm an NFL GM, that's who I'm drafting. I'm drafting a guy like Anthony Richardson because there is potential he could be that guy. I think a guy like CJ Stroud, very talented. He could be a 10-year starter, 15-year starter in the league. I don't think he's going to win you a Super Bowl. But I do think the risk is lower. I do think that there is a very high floor for Stroud, and the same thing with Bryce Young. I think he's guaranteed to be a good guy in this league. Will Levis, I think more similar to Anthony Richardson. I think he's got a cannon of an arm. I don't think we got to see his full potential in college because of the absolute shit O-line. And I don't think he had the greatest weapons like these other big name guys had. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, they had bigger talent around them. And I know one thing that GMs and teams look for is a big arm, because you can't teach a big arm, you can't mold a big arm, but that's just raw talent. That is raw ability, and that's something that Levis and Richardson both have that I don't think a lot of the other quarterbacks do have.
And with today's game, a big arm is what people want to see now. They don't want to see the cookie cutter dump off throws, or statistically it could look better, but you have a dude with a big arm that can throw it 65 yards for a TD. That is what people want to see. That is how I guess views skyrocket for an NFL team. People are going to be looking at the highlights. They're not going to be looking at what that player communicated on he audibled out, he made the changes. But also what you were saying about the 10 to 15 year starter, is that what GMs want nowadays? Because everybody's on the move. You hardly see Aaron Rodgers type players staying with the same team pretty much his entire career. Is that what the GMs are looking for? Are they like, okay, for the next 5 years we got a dude, or are they gonna draft this guy and he's doing what he needs to do, but he's not, we don't see him being here very long? Does that play into effect of a player's draft stock?
I feel like if you looked at it like that in a way, then that would almost put you in a sense of like, let's take Lamar Jackson for example, right? You already seen what he can do. But now I think you got to look at it as though like, what do we want to pay? Like, it's not now, because at this point, none of them better than Lamar. So why would we not go get Lamar? And like, Mitch made a good point when we was at work one night, and he was saying, you get a first round pick, and let's say this first round pick don't pan out.
Right.
So now you just wasted a first round pick. So now what you gonna do next year? Probably use that first round pick on probably the same position that you didn't pan out with the past year.
When you could have given up that.
When you could have given up those Lamar
Jackson,
who's already.
So we can all agree that every team that did not try and go after Lamar Jackson is a bunch of jackasses.
Pretty much.
I mean, look at the Titans. They just drafted Malik Willis, and they're looking at drafting a quarterback this year. I know Malik wasn't first round, but they still gambled on him, and they're looking at taking a quarterback with the first this year. You could have Lamar Jackson for that same output. And
you could probably even trade both of them in a package deal. Honestly, if you really wanted to, you could probably get rid of Tannehill and Malik Willis. I don't think the Ravens really want them, but if you want that kind of quarterback, that more pocket-style quarterback, you know what I mean? At least with Malik Willis, that gives you some type of edge that you could, put with Huntley. Because don't get me wrong, Huntley's still a dog too. He's not LJ, but, you could put Malik Willis and Huntley together. Huntley's been in the league for a couple years. He knows what it's like to be a starter for a little bit. I'm not saying that you want to build off of that, but now you have at least the capital to get a first round pick. And I know a lot of people are hype off this. Now you can have an opportunity to maybe use that for Caleb.
Kind of feels like a joke, but Huntley was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I mean, and Huntley's a good example. He's one of those guys who can do everything that he can do. He can play to the best of his ability and be a borderline Pro Bowler, like you just said. He's never going to win you a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. You could give him 3 top 5 receivers. I don't think he wins you a Super Bowl. I don't think he's the guy to make that throw. I don't think he's the guy to avoid that sack. And there are so many of these teams that have these quarterbacks that are in this dilemma currently of, is the person we have right now the guy, or do we look into the draft? And the Titans, for example, they gambled on Malik, and given, again, it wasn't a first-round pick, but when they picked him, they thought he was the guy of the future, because Tannehill's not that guy. Malik Willis isn't that guy. So if you would have given your pick last year, and say you still had that for this year, and a pick next year, first-round pick next year, or hell, even a first-round pick this year and next year, if you have the opportunity to take Lamar Jackson, you have to take that. He is a proven talent. He's an MVP in this league, and he did it with no weapons. He has Mark Andrews, but a tight end can only do so much. A tight end blocks on average 40% of the time. He can only do so much. But Lamar Jackson's a proven talent. I just don't understand what these general managers are thinking other than, we can't pay him. We don't want to pay him. But if that's the case, you're never going to win a Super Bowl. Unless you win in that window, you'll never win a Super Bowl.
Not only can they not pay him, but are they able to make the changes necessary to the offensive side of the ball that benefits having a mobile quarterback? That, I mean, does he have an arm that can be utilized with the weapons that offense maybe already has, or do they need to step back and be like, okay, so if we take Lamar, we're gonna have to add 2 to 3 guys on the line that can mesh with him, or are they going to be like, all right, we got Lamar, now we're gonna have to make the guys that we already have, we're gonna have to make them change their ways.
I want you to think about, besides Lamar Jackson, when was the last time that an elite level quarterback was available? Already proven, like you said, MVP, top tier talent. When was the last time a quarterback like that was available? And I'm not talking Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady at the end of their career. Prime of their career, have several prime years left. When was the last time that happened? I can only think of one instance in the past 5 years.
I can think
Russell
of one,
Wilson.
but he's a sex offender.
Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only time.
Yeah.
What about Russell?
I mean,
Russell,
yeah.
but you got to think Russell had already been in the league 9 years.
But let's talk about Russell.
But he
real quick.
was a dog. And then he
that's the
gets
thing.
he starts on a new team, and they have one of the worst worst seasons.
Yeah.
This is a topic for another time, but I think Russell in that trade, I mean, way overpaid. I think he was far overrated. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a solid guy, but I think when the Seahawks were having success, it's because they were like the 49ers. Now, Russell is leaps and bounds better than Brock Purdy, don't get me wrong, but I think the team
Is he
overall
now,
was
though?
better.
Right now, no, I'm taking Brock Purdy right now. I know that's stupid. I know Russ was Russ, but Russ isn't Russ.
But with the resume that Russ has, is he able to turn it back on with either a new team or with new weapons?
I mean, he has Sean Payton now, so if anyone's going to get him back there, it's going to be Sean. But at the same time, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if it's a case of the mental yips. I don't know if he's just not meshing well. Or if, like Luke said, I don't know if he was just never really that guy, but he always had the team around him to be that guy.
Yeah. Now, he's definitely better than what he's playing like.
Yes,
But
he is.
I don't think he's that elite level guy that the league and I think a lot of the NFL fan base thought he was. But back to Lamar, I think it's the same thing with the draft. What are you playing for? High risk, high reward. Winning a Super Bowl is high risk, high reward. You got to go get Lamar if you have that opportunity. You got to pay the man. You've got to do what you have to do to your offense to go and win that chip because, again, what the hell are you playing for?
I guess, and really quick, I didn't mean to cut anyone off if I did. Anthony Richardson. People say his ceiling is either Cam Newton or who?
Lamar Jackson.
So why wouldn't you just go get Lamar Jackson instead of taking that chance?
Cam Jackson himself. That's what he called himself. Did y'all know that?
Who?
He did an interview. Anthony Richardson. He
Call
said
himself Cam Jackson?
Cam Jackson. That's what he said. He put himself in myself with Cam Jackson.
Dumb as hell.
So why don't you just get Lamar?
Because you got to think. You got to pay Lamar.
You do, but if Richardson turns out to be Lamar, you
You're
have
gonna
to pay him too.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to go after Lamar after everything that he's put the Ravens organization through?
Me? Yes, I do. And I just... So I guess not every team, but I guess my question to anyone who wants to take Anthony Richardson or inevitably does take Anthony Richardson, how much are you willing to gamble? Or how little do you care if you are hoping that this guy turns out to be Lamar Jackson, in which you'll have to pay him in 4 years anyways? You're praying to God that he is Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton. But what if he's not, and Lamar Jackson's still there? And you could have had him. You could have had what you want Richardson to be, but you just didn't want to pay what you would inevitably have to pay if Richardson does turn out being good, when you have a proven star right there.
They're just banking on him being that and being young.
Yeah.
That's literally it. That's the only thing you can really say. Is they're banking on him being a young version. Like they're hoping, okay, if Lamar can do, because what, Lamar's 26? Something like that, 25, 26?
Yeah,
okay,
26.
Lamar won an MVP, what, 2 years ago? 3 years ago.
3 years. Might have been 4, because Rodgers twice, Mahomes this year, so 4.
Okay, so he won that 22? We'll say that 22, 23 years old, right? They're hoping that could be Anthony Richardson. That's what they're hoping, because if they get a glimpse, they're like, oh, we got it. Oh, yeah. They're hoping that, yeah, we found the next. Like, yeah, we didn't have to pay all that money for somebody who's already did it. We got it a lot cheaper, and he could do just the same thing. No, that's not how that works. Like, you're not finna just sit here and say because he has some upside or because he has a 0.2 second differential from Lamar and maybe a 2-inch wingspan difference from Cam that, oh, he's the next super Cam Jackson. No, that's not how this works because he hasn't played against actual NFL coverage. Like, it's a lot of quarterbacks, and I'm harping on it again, that get to the league and don't pan out to be nothing but had great college quarterback seasons. Like, A.J. McCarron, to be exact, like, GOAT at Alabama. Like, I don't care what nobody say. Colt McCoy at Texas. You know what I mean? We've had some dogs be dogs in college. But you got to think, you're not just playing against folks that's been in college for a couple years. You playing with folks that's been in the league for years. Like, you playing with folks who's been, like when folks was playing with Brady. And you coming in as a new DB. This man knows folks like Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu. Like, so you think he not finna just bait you? Like, you ain't nothing to him. But they don't look at it like that. They look at it as what can we get and hope and pray that we hit on for cheap. It's like buying a lottery ticket. Like buying $1 lottery ticket. You hope you hit a 10 on that thing. Mm-hmm. You get $10 on $1 lottery ticket, I guarantee the rest of your day you just happy. Because you don't think that you going to hit big. You hope that you hit big and it doesn't cost you as much. In case that project does fail, you don't lose all your money to go out and hopefully hope something like a Lamar Jackson situation comes up. But it's just not a great as a quarterback to where you have to find some people like a Sam Darnold or a Jimmy Garoppolo and have to pay backwards than what you could have gotten prior. So,
well, how long do you give that project to be, how long do you give that project to turn into what you need them to be? Because if you can be like, okay, they're going to come out shit first 2 or 3 years. Are you okay with that as a GM?
So it depends, because then you don't have to pay him as much.
Yeah.
But
right.
At the same time, with Richardson, you're hoping he sits behind someone and develops. But like Trey said, the biggest concern with Richardson right now is his throwing. And that's been against college football DBs. What's going to happen in the NFL? I mean, maybe he will flip a switch and just learn how to throw much more accurately and get the ball there. and speed up his release. But if he couldn't do it against college football quarterbacks, what in the blue hell, or college football DBs, what in the blue hell is he going to do against NFL DBs, the best of the best?
I just want to say that Anthony Richard had a 53% completion rating.
I believe
I'm not understanding, and out of the 5 quarterbacks or 6 quarterbacks that's out there, him and Will Levis are at the bottom, but they're I'm with completions and touchdowns and interception ratio, and I'm just not understanding like
who are the people that Anthony's throwing to though.
I mean that's understandable. I'm not mad at that, and that's a very valid like statement.
That's a better argument for Will Levis.
But at the same time, like you're throwing to the defense as much as you're throwing to your offense. You still got
it doesn't even matter who you got on your side.
Exactly. So it doesn't like
they were completed all right.
If you got on different colored jerseys, I would think you would know what who to throw it to at least. But
that goes back to that cognitive test.
Yeah, I mean, like, but hey, the 73% is brilliant in some odds. So like I said, man, we gonna have to see. When the draft comes on, what, next Thursday? Is it next Thursday when it comes on?
This Thursday.
Oh, this coming Thursday, right? Yeah. So, yeah, man. I think just to switch topics real quick, man. The draft is Thursday. Who y'all want y'all's team to, who y'all hoping that y'all team go on and pick up and be that new factor or that new home run that y'all got?
All right. My team's the Colts and the Bengals, but I think the Colts are definitely going to take quarterback. I think we're all aware of that. I think I want them to go with Will Levis. I think Steichen can work with that arm, and like I mentioned earlier, a high risk, high reward. I think Levis could be out of the league next year, but I think he could also be the guy that takes us to the next level.
So I'm a Patriots fan, and there are one of three ways. But I'll give one at each. Wide receiver, give me Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnston, or even Zay Flowers. Go offensive tackle, Broderick Jones, or if they go DB, if they wanted to trade up, which I can't see Bill Belichick doing ever, I would say Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon, or if we don't trade, I'd say Joey Porter Jr.
I'm a dirty bird through and through. Yeah. Oh, here we go. But anyway, so I think the Falcons have done a tremendous. I don't even gonna say rebuild because they've got a lot of like veteran players too. But just kind of like finding out that like yes, we need a defense. Like we don't have a defense. We couldn't block chickens to come from out like we couldn't block a chicken in a chicken coop. Like it's not happening for us, but I would want us to honestly go after Christian Gonzalez. I'm a little biased, Go Ducks. But if we really needed some help on the D-line, I would say we can go somewhere like Miles Murphy. My big reach, and I've seen this a couple of times, is Nolan Smith. I think Nolan Smith would be a good attribute or a tribute to like our team just because of his speed. But I don't know if we want to reach that far. Now, if we wanted to trade our pick, and maybe kind of move backwards a little bit so that way we're not reaching so far for him, I think that would help us and also kind of get a conversation pick as well. I would hope that would be something we can consider, but if it's not, then it's not. But I would hope that.
Quick response. I need an answer in 3 seconds. If CJ Stroud is there, do you take him?
The Falcons?
Yeah.
I don't think they will. The only reason I say that is because they got a chance to get Lamar. You know what I mean? Like, that's who I'm pretty sure everybody thought would have picked Lamar up, especially if you see all the vlogs, all the, ESPN talks, any sports news, whatever, had Lamar projected the Falcons. And honestly, I feel like if we really wanted to win, because I'm sure he knows, you got an MVP, he's only 26, he's still young enough to make it to where he could still get us to a Super Bowl. But now, like we talked about earlier, are they willing to pay that? No, I don't think they're willing to pay that. I think they like Desmond Ridder, and then they brought in Taylor Heineke as a backup. I think they kind of paid him a little more than they should have, but, I think that's where they were. I think they looked at longevity. We can build more with our team and our needs than go get one position. And matter of fact, that position might have helped us get to where we need to get to, but I think longevity-wise, they kind of went the route they went. So, no, I don't think we would pick C.J. Stroud if he was there at 8. Just me personally.
Falcons got 8.
Falcons got 8, yeah.
Well, with the Saints, man, I just hope that they don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we need something. We need a playoff run. We need, I mean, it is very hard to be constantly with a team that cannot hold it together in the playoffs or even get to the playoffs.
Oh, well, at least you still have Sean Payton. I mean, oh, shoot.
That's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, if I had a pick, is that tight end from Notre Dame?
Michael Mayer.
Is he declared?
Mm-hmm. Best tight end in the draft.
I don't know. They got him projected number 2. So, can't be too great.
That's a big boy. And I just hope all is well down in New Orleans.
Them Aints ain't gonna do nothing this year.
All right.
But no, man, that's all the time we got. Y'all tune in with us next time when we come back with y'all. We're gonna have the post-draft, podcast to kind of take our takes on what we think happened after the draft, what we think teams should have done, and what we think teams did well and what they should do better. Man, y'all stay tuned, man. TRXTM out.
Joe Burrow's better than Josh Allen.